All right, and we're back for part 5 of episode 2 of Before the Storm, sitting down with the Amber family for some very pleasant dinner where nothing untoward will happen.
So, Chloe, are you and Rachel in any of the same classes?
I wish. Rachel's all honors. I'm still trying to get into remedial... What's it called? Vocabulary.
What about that fire?
Dinner's really good, Mom.
Thank you, Rachel. The way the fire spreads so fast, I've never heard of anything like it.
Yeah. It's scary.
After those floods upstate, I was overjoyed we had less rain this year. Who knew a spring drought could be even more dangerous?
You never know where a deadly spark will come from.
It's certainly troubling. The latest report from the Commissioner's office suggests arson.
Arson. Why would anyone do that?
Any number of reasons. With everything going on in the world today, even a town like Arcadia Bay isn't immune to the ills of society.
I cannot imagine how difficult these last few years have been for you, Chloe. Now that you and Rachel have become friends, I want you to know that our home is always open to you.
Cool. Thanks.
Well said, dear. It's imperative in such troubled times as these that we remember what is most important to us. Family. Family's not merely a gift, it is a responsibility. As such, those we love must be cared for and never, ever taken for granted.
So Rachel asked us for one thing here. It's not Chloe's family. It's not her place.
Yeah, that's super true. And also remember, Rachel, that even when shit's like the lamest ever, you can always run away from whatever's bothering you. As long as you just keep calm.
An interesting philosophy, Chloe.
Yes, indeed. Not one that I would endorse, however. I favor confronting my problems head on. But to each their own, I suppose.
Oh, fucking blow me.
Rachel?
Crap. I'm so clumsy. Rachel, can you come help me find another
Stop
fork?
it, Chloe. I can't sit here and listen to this bullshit anymore.
Rachel!
Stop it, Dad. You're a hypocrite. Okay? I know. You lying, cheating piece of shit, motherfucker.
Excuse me?
We saw you yesterday at the Overlook
James?
kissing that woman.
James.
Rachel? Honey, whatever you saw or think you saw, I know it's hard, but I need you to trust me.
No offense, Mr. Amber, but I think we trust our eyes more than you.
That's enough! You are not welcome here or around my daughter any longer. I know exactly what kind of person you are from the moment I saw you, and I let my wife's compassion get the better of me.
Oh? What kind of person is that?
A delinquent. A broken girl from a broken home.
That's enough, James. I will not have you continue to speak to her like this.
Why can't you just tell me the fucking truth? Stop lying. Stop being a politician for one fucking minute. Can't you just be my dad?
Rachel, that woman you saw, that wasn't my mistress. That was your mother.
So I absolutely did not see that coming, and maybe out of an abundance of caution, I might dial down the in-game audio here, since I think that we're probably near the very end. I'm looking forward to seeing what the percentages here are at the very end, but of all, like I had... We have all of those long, lingering looks at from Sarah, who we now know as Sarah, at Chloe, at the fire at the end of episode 1, like sort of intimating that something else might be going on. But honestly, if I was asked to give a prediction, I was starting to think that maybe she's another person with powers similar to Maxine's. Well, I guess it's always Max. Never Maxine, always Max, as she says at one point. Maybe somebody who has herself traveled in time and is here to, like, fuck with the Ambers for some reason. It was a long shot, but it's not like there isn't a precedent in the Life is Strange universe for time travel, and it just felt like there was more going on there. But hearing that is apparently Rachel's biological mother. Oh, hold on, here's... Oh, that's really nice. It's like, Steph seems like a really, really, really gentle heart, and... Like, the interesting thing here... Oh, here's Sarah. Yeah, she's got that, like, star tattooed all over her. And it was never said, but that stuff coming down is ash from the fire, right? It's not a snowstorm like at the end of the first episode of Life is Strange. I actually kind of appreciate the fact that it goes unstated. That was a nice touch. The idea, before we read at these statistics, the idea that Sarah is Rachel's biological mother, if anything, raises more questions about why she's meeting up with Frank. The obvious answer is maybe Sarah has a history of drug addiction. That's why James Amber decided to separate from her, because, oh, I want to go off and have a political career. They went their separate ways, and he retained custody of Amber. James retained custody of Rachel on the grounds that Sarah was a drug addict and then has gotten remarried to Rose, and it doesn't feel like Rachel Amber was ever made aware of the fact that she was adopted. So let's look through some of these things, and I will try to remember any other elements. Now, just before we go on, I am going to dial it back up just in case we get a post-credit or a post thing sequence here. All right, so we are back. 71% took the blame for Rachel. It seemed absolutely appropriate for Chloe in that moment. Chloe grapples with the belief that she is inherently damaged, dislikable, and just a world-class fuck-up. She's clearly not. Like, to anybody that's ever worked with kids, for anybody who knows her even in passing, she's so plainly not, but Chloe believes that she is and feels very much sort of cast adrift in life. So the idea that she would sit back and allow Rachel Amber to take the blame when, after all, isn't it more comfortable to blame Chloe Price? That is the way that it's going to go. I'm actually not at all surprised that that's the odds-on favorite. 36% refuse to empty your pockets. I am very surprised that that's the minority choice. Chloe, I am not a psychiatrist, but Chloe evinces a lot of things that I would, in my very layman's term, consider to be like oppositional defiance disorder. Like, I don't know if that's the right phrase for it, but Chloe is not going to get bossed around pretty much by anyone. Like, she just inherently hates being ordered around and to have her agency and her liberty taken away by anyone. And she hates David so much that you want to press the reset button, we'll do it. You want me to empty my pockets out in front of my mom? Like, by the way, I personally at that moment don't have reason to believe that Chloe has anything on her more than a lighter and regular cigarettes. Because remember, she didn't get her stash out of the locker. So, like, yeah, the cigarettes themselves might be they obviously would be an issue, especially for David. But it's not like she's carrying around like fentanyl or something like that. That's really gonna get her in a lot of trouble. So it's a fight that she'd be willing to have. I'm honestly surprised that more people didn't refuse to empty their pockets. It's very difficult. It would be interesting for me to see Chloe's behavior when she complies with David. Also, just the language on screen at that moment, comply. Chloe Price does not comply. That's just not who she is. So anyway, 66% stayed with Mikey. That was honestly a really difficult decision because well, okay. That wasn't a difficult decision, that specifically, but because you had Drew saying, no matter what happens, don't open up the door. And as you heard, I realized in that moment, not opening the door is the best chance we have to keep the money with the North brothers, which had become my goal at that point. Still, I'm surprised that it was so heavily weighted in this direction because I really disliked, it didn't occur to me that Drew might get so injured in the beating that it might cost him his scholarship. And I'm very concerned to this moment. Like, it will be very surprising to me if at the start of the next episode, we don't get word that his knee, he will walk again, but it's going to be probably in about 6 months to a year, and he's going to lose his athletic scholarship. I honestly think that that's what happens next, and that's what made that so hard. The realization after the that cracking sound followed by like, let's see how well you run on a broken knee or whatever it is that Damon says, is the realization that in saving them about $1,000 or whatever was in that envelope, they may, we might have just cost, well, that Drew has been cost his scholarship and what was hopefully going to be a much brighter future for him and his whole family. It's just, it meant a lot to me realizing that Mikey needed to be driven to the clinic. Now, maybe that's nothing at all. Maybe that's just a routine checkup at the free clinic. It doesn't need to be something catastrophic, but the choice of language leads me to believe that it is something more. I corrected myself there because Drew also has agency here. I don't believe, based on the evidence that we found in the room and Drew's reaction when Chloe revealed that she had taken the money but then was keeping it with the family, I don't see greed, avarice, selfishness in Drew's actions. I don't think that he was dealing drugs as a get rich quick scheme. It seemed to me that he was dealing drugs as a make ends meet scheme because his family has run on very hard times. And I also noticed that in the conversation about Drew and Mikey and their father, whose name I'm afraid I've just forgotten, Andrew? No, Andrew is Drew. I don't remember the father's name. We didn't hear about their mom. It's just the three of them. And their sole source of family income, being their father's fishing job, was taken away by the Prescotts, which backfills a lot of information on why Drew was picking on Nathan. Like, he's angry. He's really angry about what the Prescotts have done to his family. So all that thing, like, you can't be on the team and be into this sick art shit, like whatever is in Nathan's binder, which we can only guess based on what we know about the first game. it didn't have anything to do with the art at all, and Drew may not be such a big bully, but rather is hurt and angry by how badly the Prescotts have fucked him and his family over just for a few more millions of dollars, but just more cash in the bank. Yeah, I get where he's coming from. Moving ahead, you asked Rachel to give you the bracelet. I did not see an option. Excuse me, game. I did not see an option to ask Rachel for the kiss. And you guys, like, I didn't say anything, but when they were dancing around and Rachel was so euphoric after the play, I was like, Chloe, why are you not kissing her? Like, Chloe, like, this is it. This is your moment. Like, this is the time. I was not afforded the option. And the only thing I can think of is that it's because in episode 1, when Chloe is, like I said, in my view, let's remember Chloe's journal, just coming around to the realization that she's gay, that when Rachel was like, what is this? Like, it's already a tense situation. Chloe's already afraid that she's done something to fuck it up, that it's her fault that Rachel is acting bad, like, acting cold and distant and hurt, that Chloe did something wrong, that in that same scene, Chloe wouldn't, like, suddenly, as far as Chloe's concerned, open the door to something more. That doesn't feel true to the character or the interaction that they're having right now. Of course, Chloe is developing feelings for Rachel Amber, but that specific scene didn't seem like the moment to announce it. And by the way, the scene that followed where, like, Steph asked Chloe, like, I'm interested in Rachel, but I'll back off if you are also interested in Rachel. And Chloe responds, I don't know. That seemed like a way more organic way to have Chloe introducing to herself the realization there is something more here. There is something that I care about. I very much wanted to ask Rachel for the kiss. I very much wanted to. And it's bothering me a whole lot that I wasn't afforded that opportunity, given the fact that, like, that was one of the goals of this episode, was to start moving Chloe in that direction. Because as far as I know, this Before the Storm is only 3 episodes. Like, it's like, go for it, fish or cut bait, Chloe, go for it. And I really tried in this episode and was denied the chance to get the kiss. So there we go. Okay, 29% did not talk to Ellie about the play, 24% decided not to go to the play with Elliot, and 47% intended to go to the play with Elliot. I will say that I don't remember if any option in this episode helped inform that decision. If I was looking for the opportunity to say, hey, Elliot, I'm not going to be able to make it to the play. And indeed, he said, do you want to hang out afterwards? And I said, no, I'm going to go hang out with Rachel Amber. So, like, Chloe is all in on Rachel Amber, in my view, at this point. Maybe that 47% is just a carryover from the previous episode. If I said something or failed the opportunity to say something that I decided not to go to the play with Elliot, that is the choice I was going to make. 75% agreed to start over with David. I did talk about this at the moment. Joyce has previously asked Chloe to make the attempt. If Chloe refuses to make the attempt, and when David is right there, when David is making such a show of being the reasonable one, let's be clear, he's not. Remember the first scene last episode when Chloe came out, why do you women always take so long to get ready? Like a little more hustle wouldn't have hurt you, he says when she brings him the socket wrench set that he had asked for. David is, we don't know what he was like before this, but at one of the worst parts of the Being David experience. So, although my opinion of him grows considerably during the events of Life is Strange, he is not yet that person. However, in this scene with Joyce, he is making a show of being the reasonable one, of offering the olive branch to Chloe and saying, Chloe, let's start anew. I'll be moving in. Does he say that? Yes, he does. Yeah, because I kept expecting him to say it, but I remember him saying, I'll be helping out your mom with certain things. But I think that he also announces, yes, that he's moving in, right? I'm pretty sure that he says that in that scene. If he doesn't say it, it's certainly what I heard him say in that scene. So let's start a brand new relationship. That's the offer that he makes to Chloe. Let's let bygones be bygones and start fresh. If Chloe doesn't take him up on that, then Chloe is the irrational one. He is maneuvering himself into a position where he can make Chloe be the bad guy in Joyce's eyes by putting on this show for her. And Chloe knows her lines. She's very good at improv. Well, not improv, but learning her lines, I suppose. Well, even that at the improv during the Shakespeare play. And that's what she did here. Sure, David, I'll start over with you. And then he's like, into your pocket. She's going, go fuck yourself. No way. 68% put the singing man on the dashboard. 32% did not. 96% didn't pay off your debt to Frank. What the fuck are you talking about? We did that last episode. Like it really feels like there needs to be a percentage in there for you had no debt to pay off. Remember, we were crossed out in the book. That's a really weird phrasing for you already paid off your debt. So I don't know what that means. 87% didn't tell Steph that Rachel was single. Yeah, damn straight. No surprise there. That's a very high percentage. 31% 31% returned Drew's money to him. 69% didn't. Hold on a second. Because 66%, hold on a second. 66% stayed. What? Sorry, this is a real mind bender. 2/3 of people stayed with Mikey, meaning they didn't give Damon the money, and then the same 2/3 didn't return the money back to Drew either. They just kept it for Chloe, or were they going to give it to Frank? That's weird. Like, that is extremely weird. Apparently 2/3 of people didn't want to stop the beating and also didn't want Drew to keep the money. Holy shit. That is difficult for me to wrap my mind around. That's wow. I can't even process that beyond what you've heard. Were like, the only thing that makes sense to me is that either they didn't process the fact that $1,000 goes either to Frank or to Damon, but either way is paying off the debt, which I think is abundantly clear. It's like the same $1,000 either way. That's my understanding. Drew owes $1,000. The $1,000 can be paid back to Damon or can be paid back to Frank, but it's the $1,000 to their organization for all of the Oxy that he's been pushing. So the idea that 2/3 of people wouldn't give the money to Damon and then wouldn't give it back to Drew, either they in my opinion, mistakenly believed that the money had to be paid back to Frank directly, or somewhat more likely we're planning to keep the money for Chloe. But unless I'm forgetting like the timeline, wasn't this before? Well, I mean, I guess it was last episode that Rachel and Chloe were talking about running away together. So yeah, maybe they wanted to keep it for Rachel and Amber to get them out. But I'm sorry, like, Chloe stealing from a t-shirt dealer that she feels is overcharging in episode 1, there's a big difference there between that and Chloe stealing from another high school student who she takes a casual glance around his room and finds a family that is in extreme financial distress. That she would rob from them. All I can say is that is not my vision of Chloe Price at all. That doesn't fit Chloe Price even slightly to me. That seems entirely out of character. 47% didn't give Samantha advice. 3% told Samantha to avoid Nathan. 17% told Samantha to give Nathan space. And so this was the number 2 option, told Samantha to help Nathan. I'm wondering if the 47% who didn't give advice, like, I don't remember that as being an option on the screen. It might have been. I wonder if a lot of people just didn't talk to Samantha. I would have called her Stephanie at one point. Steph is a different character. And I talked a little bit about this at the time. I know from having played the first game that Nathan Prescott, as introduced in Before the Storm, is not salvageable. He is not a helpable character. But I only know that because I know where his story goes, and I know what happens next for him. It's a few years down the line, but I know where that goes. Chloe Price doesn't know that, and Samantha doesn't know that, and they don't know how dark and how bad it gets for Nathan. It's inappropriate. It's too metagamey to have these characters, to have Chloe say, oh, avoid Nathan, stay away from her. That's something Max would say if she traveled back in time to this place. You need to stay away from Nathan because nothing you do is going to help. I've seen where he goes. Your help cannot help him. But for the characters in this scene, in this moment, any sort of empathetic or caring reading would recognize that Nathan Prescott is in a lot of pain and is in danger of spiraling, and intervention from friends, faculty, well-wishers can rescue him from that. I keep almost calling her Stephanie. Samantha cares about Nathan, appears to legitimately, earnestly care for him. Go help him, Samantha. He needs someone that he can rely on, someone who can be a friend. Just be a friend. That could make all the difference. We know it doesn't, but that is the way to go. And I will not hear like, oh, so-and-so is troubled, so just cut him loose. That's not the way that this works. 19% discouraged Victoria from acting the play. 16% encouraged her before the play. 33% confronted Victoria before the play. 32% tricked Victoria before the play. I don't know what trick. So the only 2 options that I had were distract Victoria or confront Victoria. And obviously, for many reasons already described, Chloe Price was going to confront Victoria. She has every reason. This is not metagaming, by the way, knowing what we know about the undefeatable avarice, the envy of Victoria Chase, that she wants to be the star. She can't stand that Rachel Amber is more talented, more beautiful, more popular, a better actress than she is. She can't stand it. So she's obviously not above like drugging Rachel Amber. The thing is, I don't think that is a mystery to somebody like Chloe. I really don't. Like everything we just talked about, Nathan, Victoria Chase is not a good actress, and it's so clear. Plus the fact that like Chloe thought that she saw Victoria slip something into the drink, and when she went looking into Victoria's bag, she just happened to find muscle relaxants. Now, there's a lot of legitimate reasons that somebody might be taking muscle relaxants. I have, on very, very rare occasions, taken muscle relaxants when my back goes into spasm, for example. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to be the next Prospero, okay? Or Prospera? Whatever. So, like, it's not just on its own suspicious or worthy of derision, but like Chloe thought she saw something and then found evidence that what she saw, like had we found nothing, I still would have dumped the tea, and I still think that that's what Chloe should have done. Had the option been there to dump tea, then that would have been the 5th option on here, and like 85% would have just poured out the tea and avoided the confrontation altogether. But we are where we are, and obviously Chloe Price, in my view, would confront Victoria 100%. 30% told Rachel you'd like to go on a road trip, 29% said New York, and 41% said Los Angeles. Even when I made that, I do remember Rachel saying that she wanted to go see New York, but I feel like Chloe wants to go see California, and that's why Chloe said, let's go to Los Angeles. I want to go see where you came from. Also, and this isn't like a bug or anything, but when Chloe said, I can't imagine Rachel growing up here, Rachel is a fairly recent transplant here. Like, she didn't grow up here. And I'm not trying to, like, nitpick. I don't think that's a plot hole or anything. It's just something that I picked up on. Rachel did not grow up in this house. She probably grew up in a similar one, but not in this house. It was, you know, and maybe that's just what Chloe meant. I could never imagine Rachel and Amber growing up in an environment like this. And then 72%, Rachel attacked James at dinner. As I discussed, like, it bothers me not choosing the backtalk option, because similar to using Max's time traveling abilities in the first game, that's the gameplay here. Like, a narrative game has a lot of dialogue and a lot of making decisions, but sometimes you'll have one that has a gameplay to it as well. Vampire is a narrative. Well, Vampire really is more of an action game with a heavy narrative focus, sort of running through it. But The Council is an example of a narrative game that has some distinct gameplay loops to it in terms of what you can say, when you can say it, how often you can make use of your various dialogue skills. It's a very, very interesting game. Note that I'm not saying good, but a legitimately really interesting game that I admire very much. The Council. We'll not get into further into that. In this game, the gameplay that they've introduced is this backtalk challenge, and it feels like you're skipping levels in Mario or something to not do all of the backtalk challenges. That is the very first one that we've skipped, and I talked about it at the moment. It's inappropriate. Rachel, if this had been Chloe's own father, if this had been a confrontation between David, Joyce, and Chloe, I would have been on the backtalk challenge faster than you could have seen it appear on screen. But this is not Chloe's family. This is Rachel's family. And if you've ever had the experience or the social awareness that you can say things and vent about your own family in ways that if you heard somebody else talk about your family, you'd be extremely angry about it, that's what's happening there. Rachel is justifiably enraged at her father, but it's just not Chloe's place to confront him at the dinner table where his wife and daughter are already there. It's just inappropriate. So I talk a lot about Chloe's propensity for confrontation, her refusal to be talked down to be limited, chained, leashed in any way, but that doesn't make her a monster. Chloe does understand social interactions and doesn't just act out for the sake of being the center of attention. So she's not going to do that. And that is everything that I have to say about this. I'm going to hit B, and I think hopefully we'll go back to the main screen. Actually, I think it's going to do a timer, so we'll have to find the episode menu here. And the next episode will be Hell is Empty, which is, now we know, a line from The Tempest. Which makes it now the third time in like 4 days that I've seen that exact phrase as a reference to The Tempest. And that's everything for this episode. The very final note is just something that we talked about during the very beginning of episode 1 here the very beginning part 1 of episode 2, is there was a little bit of animation popping, but what we did not get in this episode was Chloe Price getting stuck in a default character animation, like a default character stance, being out of place, characters addressing the air, Chloe facing the wrong way and sort of awkwardly looking over her shoulder. These things were endemic in the first episode, and whether it was the fact that we did exit out and restart at least once as we played this, maybe that had to do something with it, and maybe it was just the choice of outfit that I made to wear the Firewalk outfit. I don't know, but hopefully moving forward into episode 3, we will continue to not see any of those technical issues, because a little bit of animation popping, that's fine. Like, I mean, you want to see a game presented as well as possible, but I'm willing to overlook some minor technical issues in favor of immersing myself in the story. So you can notice something without being bothered by it, and that's, it was like the director of the high school play. And just to wrap up that thought, maybe, Rachel Amber, so one thing that's interesting about the original Life is Strange is that Rachel Amber has gone missing, and it feels like she's been out for a few months, so that's why maybe there's a much lower grade of community alarm, and it's only Chloe that's going around plastering up all of those missing posters. But what you do hear about Rachel in the first game is that she was this amazing person. She was beautiful, wise beyond her years, expertly talented at a variety of things, and everybody loved her, and a member of the Vortex Club, where we haven't actually heard that much about the Vortex Club here in Before the Storm, possibly because it's just of so little interest to Chloe. Like, her interests are so far removed from the activities in and around the school and going to parties with her classmates and stuff. It's just not where she is at all. But in the first game, the Vortex Club is this highly elite, super popular crew of movers and shakers in the high school scene, the high school royalty of Blackwell Academy. And Rachel Amber was said to be a direct part of it, which is, whoa, like, Rachel Amber was like, oh, I guess she was some sort of delinquent who ran away. Like, that's one of the things you hear about her, but also was this super popular straight A student who was in all of these honors classes. So there's this interesting schism between what different people are able to tell you about Rachel Amber. But one thing is true, everybody knew of Rachel Amber. Everybody at least had heard of her and knew something about her. So this episode and that scene with the Shakespearean play, I know that what actually happened is somebody sat down and wrote some Shakespearean lines for Rachel Amber, but within the fiction of the thing, the idea that Rachel Amber would have gotten the news that Juliet can't be there to play whatever the role that Chloe was playing, I've already forgotten. Ariel, there we go. So Rachel Amber probably decided at some point between realizing that Chloe was going to be the new Ariel, but with pushing for Chloe to be the new Ariel, that she was going to change up the scene, and she had those lines like ready to go. It is super impressive for a high school student, and I have to say, worked for me of like, oh, this is the Rachel Amber that impressed everyone so much. Because up until now, it's been sort of like a lot of tell, don't show. And here was a scene of Rachel Amber just like really cutting loose and showing you just how talented she was capable of being. And it was a surprisingly emotional scene. Shakespeare often just sort of bounces off of me. It's speaking a language that I don't, and it's just difficult for me to discern. I've never learned the language of that era and been able to engage with Shakespeare the way that fans of the classics would be able to. But what you're realizing very quickly is that this is Rachel Amber, I felt like, really confessing a deep-seated affection for Chloe, up to and including saying, I think I'm falling in love with you. Like, that's what I heard there. And that, combined with the music, that was a very effective scene. Probably the most effective single scene in Before the Storm so far, which I don't mean to sound dismissive of anything prior to it, but that was a powerful moment, that play, and I liked it a lot. That's going to do it. We will see you again in 1 week's time for episode 3, and I believe it is the conclusion of Life is Strange Before the Storm. We'll see you then, and until then, whenever that episode goes back, if you're watching this in the playlist, maybe you'll just hit next video and it goes straight there. But as referenced in the real world, we will see you again in 1 week's time. Until then, take care, everybody.